Welcome to the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast. I am your host, Estelle Bingham, and together we'll be delving into the profound meaning of love, the driving force of purpose, and the beauty of connection that shapes the fabric of our lives. In each episode, I sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals out there to understand the ways love has touched them. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the global phenomenon that is the Wim Hof Method. My guests today are Isabelle and Laura Hof, Wim Hof's daughters and founders of the Ice Woman community. They're on a mission to promote the benefits of breathwork and cold therapy and how these things can really help women unlock their inner potential. Welcome to the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast. And we are here to discuss all things about your new book, The Secrets of the Ice Women. And you are the Ice Women.
Well, part of, yes. I think we're one of the Ice Women. I think it's now really a global movement with so many women around the world. And of course, it started with a lot of male going into icy water, especially with the example of our father, Wim Hof, that is like a wintry caveman. And it feels like something macho to do when you see him. But now, during these years, it's really more and more women have come to the fore. More and more women have begun to appreciate and learn about the benefits of the cold, learn about the benefits of their breath and the breath awareness and what it can do for them, and how important your mindset is for actually to anything in life. And so these are the three pillars that is Wim Hof Method. And I think especially the cold, it sort of stopped women a bit in their tracks. And now more and more women are doing it, and they find it an amazing and incredible tool to improve their happiness, health, and strength, as we always say. And our book really is about how this method, and part of it is called exposure, can benefit women. But with this book, actually, I also think we are really creating a lot of awareness about stress, about what kind of culture and society we are living in, and that actually it's not tailored to the way that we as women also work. So as women, we do encounter more stressors. And we do have another physiology. We have another way of responding towards stress. But society hasn't been built, it hasn't catched up to this fact yet. And so I think it's incredible the information that we really honed down to and really came to in this book. It it's going to give you so much more awareness about your body and how it deals with stress and what you can do to become better in tackling any grand situation or grand stressful episode or any limiting belief that you have, and conquering your goals in the best way possible, but doing it with your full awareness. And so I'm really happy with this book. It's scientific based. I'm actually kind of flowy. I'm very flowy. I'm like, wow, do we need another fact check and another fact check? But it's a really good book, and I'm very proud of it. And I think it's going to help a lot of women around the world, which is really our mission from the beginning.
Yeah, and coming back to you, we're an ice woman. I think that we are one of the ice women, but there are so many. And I'm so happy as well, since we started the movement with our father. Our father actually started the movement, but we joined, and as well are very active in the company. And but since we started this wave of making people enthusiastic about the cold and about the breath and the mindsets, and to create that awareness, we have seen so many others as well now doing it. And we are also very happy to see way more ice women and ice men and people loving the cold, because one of the things that, of course, we grow up and we are raised is to fear the cold. Put your jacket on, because otherwise you become cold. So that is actually creating a narrative around the cold. But the cold can be so beautiful and so valuable and so healthy for us.
We do know that your father is Wim Hof, and he, like you say, we'd see the documentaries or whatever he was doing on wherever it was he was doing it, just diving into these really cold waters. But he seems quite a character as well to have as a father. And he also found this method for a sort of particular time in his life to really help him through, a particularly difficult time. So it has that also like that real gravitas. It's a really a powerful way of meeting your mental health at particular times in your life. Is that fair to say?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. I mean, growing up with Wim Hof, for many others, is of course very normal for children. This is our father. So we don't know any better that Wim is our dad. Our beautiful dad that inspired us, that was always there, raising us and being just himself. So, yeah, we could as well be ourselves because that is what we do as children. And growing up, we always were witnessed about his cold exposure, his breathing exercise, which he did every single day. So when we woke up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, uh, God know why, he was doing his breathing exercises. And sometimes he was doing his breathing exercises as well when our friends came over and they were looking at us. It's like, what is your father doing? And we felt like, yeah, he's just doing what he always does, his breathing exercises. So for others, it was sometimes perceived as a bit, yeah, crazy. He was perceived as an outlier. But for us, it was just, yeah, our dad's doing his thing. And we always went to the park, especially in the winter, witnessing how he went into the cold. So that was just something steady in our life. That was his practice. You don't know any better. And then when our mom died, I was 10, Laura was 8. So we were very young children. He went even extremer with the cold. And back then we didn't understood why he did those things. He did as well other extreme stuff. It was not only the cold, the extreme cold. He was also climbing a rock of 200 meters without ropes. And yeah, he was always looking for that edge to put himself out of the comfort. And now we understand as grown-ups why. So he was battling as well something intense within himself. So mental health, yeah, he lived quite a life. I mean, our childhood was always not always perfect. There was a little bit of chaos, some issues with financial issues. My mother had mental health issues. So and then he had 4 children to take care of. Well, I have 1 child. Now I understand how intense that is. And 1 child with a very stable partner. But yeah, it takes a lot. And in a society that is very structured, very driven towards perfection, about goals, about, yeah, if you don't have money, you're not worth a lot, which is a shame in my sense. But this is how our capitalistic society is. So he was trying to survive together with 4 children. And then once my mother died, he needed to survive in an even deeper layer because, at one hand, you have to go through your grief. At the other hand, you have to be happy and enthusiastic for your children.
You have to keep going, right?
Yeah, and keep going. Yeah, you can't stop. You can't stop because children of these ages, and we were 6, 8, 10, 12, they don't know any better. And they as well are battling with their grief. But I must say, my father did an amazing job to be there, steady, with great energy, with enthusiasm. And of course, by the time we always also saw him sad. But he was there for us. And now we understand that his practice really kept him going, gave him that energy that amount of energy that you need to also raise children.
Yeah, I think he always says this phrase, my children made me survive after the death of my mother, but the cold healed me. And that is so beautiful. I think it's such a striking phrase because it shows like the intensity and the power of the cold and what it did for him.
Right.
So it gives you more sovereignty over your own being, and that is mentally speaking, your emotional state and your physical state. And we're talking here about things that are free. I mean, really, I mean, breathing, the air doesn't cost any money. The cold, of course, but you have oceans. Maybe you have a cold shower. Maybe in summer is a little bit more difficult, but you see, and the mindset, you can work with that. And these tools are absolutely free, but they are profound. They have a profound impact on our being. And I see it as a medicine, right? So the way that it works, sometimes it works even better than medicine or equally as medicine. And we see that is a lowering of inflammation, right? You get your happy hormones, endorphins, which is a painkiller. We make that all by ourselves and with the tools that are free. So the way that I see it is, thank God he had those because he was a very happy man with nothing, pretty much. We were really the poorest in the poorest neighborhoods. We were the poorest in the poorest neighborhoods, but we were happy. And we had a sense of pride, of, yeah, a feeling that we are good enough. And that's really powerful. That's a mindset that my father really had.
Well, I love the fact that you did bring consciousness into the conversation because there is a journey in this beyond the dip in the ice bath. Although if you want to just take a dip in the ice bath, that's okay and that's enough. But the actual, behind that, or as well as, you can also access something greater than. It feels like that's really important to think about as well. Like that it is a step on a journey, isn't it? Sort of a spiritual journey.
Exactly. So the ice bath, stepping into an ice bath or doing the breathing exercises, because these breathing exercises, well, very powerful. And you don't combine it, but first you do the breathing with a certain effect. It increases, for example, your pain tolerance. So by doing the breathing exercises, it's easier to go and do an ice bath. So this is why that's the sequential that doing it. But these are actually tools to come to a higher consciousness, and to change that mindset, because of a lot of things of who we are, our attitude, our thoughts. It is programs. It is how we are raised, the information that we receive from our parents, our childhoods, a little trauma here, a little trauma there. And are you able, as children as well, to release those things? Because otherwise, you will be holding it in your system and it pops up somewhere by a thought. And that is one thing. That is the nurture side. We have as well the nature side, the biology. So, evolutionary speaking, we are more prone to react on dangerous situations, like dangerous information. So our brains are wired to be more conscious, like more focused on information that are negative. This is why we see negative news all the time, because they want to capture our attention, and our brains work like that. So this is evolution. Then you have again the nurture side. So if you have really loving parents, if you have really loving environments, and great, and all the structures were great, etc., then of course you will be more prone to be raised as a very sweet, very hardworking, resilient, and friendly child, right? Who have a lot of confidence. But 2 generations before us, we had still a lot of, big wars affecting us. For example, in Europe, the Second World War. And now we are again there. So somehow we are again, in this society. But what I want to say by that is that our nurture, our fathers, were raised by fathers and mothers who went through a Second World War, for example. And that needs time to heal. So the ice bath and the breathing, by that you quiet the mind. You really connect deeply with the heart. You shed a lot of layers by going into the ice. What Laura already said, you stop thinking. You're being, you're there with your consciousness, with a layer that is very connected and with love. This is what I experience a lot of times because deep down, I really think we are all about love. It's a very sweet, we are sweet beings, beautiful beings, but the layers around are either protective, it can be protective layers, or layers that we actually, it's better to shed. And who are you without those layers? So this is where it can come by doing the breathing and the colds. And then you can change that mindset.
Yeah.
For me, especially, there are chemicals that most probably will be released. And sometimes you feel more physiological changes, and that's more due to the hypoxia, so oxygen and carbon dioxide changes. And that's more dizziness, tunnel vision, etc. But there's also, and a lot of people will experience this if you do it long enough, or if you do one power session with me. But there are two, that is DMT, and it's the spirit molecule, dimethyltryptamine. And what it is,
Yeah, it's incredible.
it's being released by the pineal gland. And it is said that it's only being released when you are born and when you die.
They are such portals. I mean, it's so powerful.
So powerful. And the DMT is also being released, for example, during an ayahuasca session. So you have very strong visuals and you can be in contact with other beings, and it's full of colors and love. And then there's another, actually, that one is DMT MEO 5, and that's called the God molecule. And actually, that's how you can explain it. Most of the time, you will feel this one, actually. And it's the dissolving of the ego. It's complete unity. It's complete wholeness. And that is actually, I think, what we all are and how we are connected to one another. And it's very difficult to understand and to comprehend and maybe even to believe when I tell you it. But when you do these breathing exercises, it's just feeling is understanding. There is something there that it feels like that it has to be that. And that's the dissolving of the ego, the deconditioning of the mind. Because from a young age, all to when we're growing, we are creating layers upon layers upon layers, and some are serving us, some are not. So it's the ego. It's not a bad thing per se, but is it serving you?
This is the question, isn't it? It's where are those limiting beliefs? And I love this idea of the heart, because the two things happen. We drop into the heart and we experience the sweetness of what it means to be human, which behind, underneath all of the hardened walls of the heart is this mystic heart, which is the work that I do, actually, dropping into the spiritual heart and experiencing that, which is just pure love, is a slipstream of love. And of course, in this place, we are that we are all one, and that interconnectedness is also just those two feelings happen at the same time, which are those moments of, transcendence, and that's a kind of bliss state, because we feel into the truth of this, which is a limitless experience. So, like you say, the sort of the DMT, that kind of the God molecule specifically.
This connection of these parts of the body and the mind, this connection in the brain itself, these deep, you're feeling more whole because you are more whole.
Absolutely,
it's communication.
Yeah, it's bringing all of these parts together, and just practicing that and feeling into that, and inhabiting more of who we are every day. Hi, it's Estelle here, and I'm so excited to share my new book with you. Manifest Your True Essence, Clear Your Blocks, Find Your Joy, Live Your Truth. This is more than just a book. It's an invitation to come home to your heart. Within its pages, you'll find the guidance to reconnect with your true essence. Through gentle meditations, heart-centered practices, and soulful wisdom, you'll learn how to release old patterns, embrace your divine spark, and manifest a life filled with love, purpose, and connection. Remember, you are love, you are light, and you are infinitely powerful. So let's hear about the specifics of how this work really helps women, because you've mentioned that it's great for hormones, it's great for our cycles, it's great for menopausal women, like all different at different stages in our lives, that it's actually really good. I'm curious about when you both started your cold dips. Like, how old were you?
Yeah, it was actually not even our dad or my dad that inspired me, but it was something I read that the cold was really good for the skin. I was 14 years old when I started to do cold showers. But with the idea, my why then was it was good for the skin and the breast. And I didn't stop from there. I didn't stop there. It was always, but it gave me a lot of power. But as a child, you always have a lot of energy, right? Your mitochondrial health is anyway very good. But now I understand how much energy it gives. But over there, my why was really the skin. So I was 14 when I started. And I didn't stop since then. So every day after my warm shower, I ended up cold. And it gave me a great sense of, feeling.
You go warm and then cold and then out of the shower.
Exactly.
This is the
Yes.
way to do it. It's also to close the pores.
Absolutely. You're meant to close the pores down. There's that Roman thing that the Romans used to do, which is warm, cold, warm, cold. They kind of go in and out of this thing.
Caldarium and frigidarium.
Yeah.
And I also like to cheat sometimes, because I also started quite young too. The Bayesian part of me does not like this. So, but I'm like, at least I've done the cold bit, but then I might go back to like a tepid and then go outside. But it's very powerful, isn't it? You still do that. And then when did you go for the dips?
The first ice bath I took, I was 25. And it was more because, there was a workshop. My father and my brother organized. And in those workshops, there were 40 people, 50 people. Now we have workshops of 1,000 people. So there was more smaller workshops where I helped out. And I just remember putting my hands inside the ice bath. And I felt like I was putting my hands for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And I felt like, holy shit, how is my father doing this for 1 hour? And then the first time I went into that really ice bath, the cold ice bath, I understood. The first 30 seconds are very hard. But then if you go inside with the whole body, after 30 seconds, it becomes easier. So that was really understanding, just by feeling as understanding how our body can adapt very quickly.
Wow.
When I was 11, my father told me, because I was running every day and I loved running, and he said, hey, do the cold showers at the end. And honestly, I loved it so much. I was doing them every day, but exactly how you did it, actually. You can really play with the heat and cold. Just make sure that you end on cold. That's all. That's all. So what I did, and that's also a little protocol in the book, but it's really alternating between warm and cold shower because it's delicious. I mean, you probably also, it's just this invigorating feeling. And especially also when you have warm water going into the cold and then again going into the warm, it's just delicious. But just make sure that you end it on cold. I think for women, cold shower like that, it's more comfortable. And it's something that you can always do. You don't feel that you don't want to do it because you feel, no, it makes me feel incredible. And I like the sensation. And you know that after doing it 1, 2, 3 times. That's why an ice bath is really one of the best stress management tools for coaches as well to teach people, because an ice bath really, it's not really the physical part. it's what the ice bath represents for anybody in their lives. Because when you go into an ice bath, there is an automatic reaction coming up of your fight and flight. That is the autonomic nervous system. That's actually also your stress response. And the same stress response, how you deal with stress, will come up in a very, very conditioned and a very strong way. And that's where we can learn to talk with ourselves, learn to guide ourselves, learn to really go through that process of being in extreme stress and remaining calm. And that is actually what we're teaching and what you're teaching yourself when you're in an ice bath. And it's incredible. It's a beautiful tool.
How do ice baths help hormones? How do they help women's hormones, fertility? Like, talk us through a little bit of that. And the menopause, how can it help women when they're experiencing going through sort of perimenopause or menopause?
So one of the most beautiful things I think about working with the cold and ice baths as well, is that you not only start to learn to manage stress, but you literally are adapting your body. And we have a study done which measured our brain, through an fMRI. And what they saw is that there are some particular molecules in the brain that is increasing. It's the endocannabinoid receptors. So these are widely spread in the brain. And these receptors, what they do is they manage our stress. They're also responsible for our mood. They manage our stress, they're responsible for our mood, and they work with increasing our interoceptive focus. So if you have more of those receptors, you can better manage stress. And what is the with women? Women are twice as likely to experience chronic stress. What does chronic stress do to our body? It increases our cortisol. So short-term cortisol, amazing. It has a lot of benefits, but long-term cortisol, that can be detrimental for women. And it can interfere as well with a healthy hormonal balance because cortisol is, of course, a hormone. But cortisol always precedes above other hormones. There is literally a hierarchy of hormones in our bodies. So progesterone and estrogen, for example, is something that if your cortisol levels are manageable, are normal, then you will create enough progesterone and estrogen. But once you need to have more cortisol, when the body needs to create long-term cortisol, this will interfere with the creation of progesterone, for example, because they are made of the same building blocks. And as I already said, because the evolutionary cortisol, the fight or flight, you want to survive, always precedes, this will take away progesterone. And you need progesterone for fertility. You need progesterone to balance estrogen. So once that cortisol is too high, it interferes with other hormones, and it can create friction in a good hormonal working system in the body. So this is one of the things that by doing the cold exposure, you are better in managing stress, but as well in increasing your stress resilience. So you won't be affected that fast by something that triggers you, by some, and it can be everything. It's from Laura that would be mad at me, or traffic that would be outside. That could be as well something, chemicals in foods. Like you create literally a stress resilience. So you're better in regulating yourself. If you're better in regulating yourself, cortisol will not have that big impact as it would otherwise.
And then your hormones can regulate.
That will benefit, again, other hormones because, again, there is a hierarchy.
And the whole system starts to work and really function.
It's like cortisol, then you have the thyroid, and then come the sexual, the female hormones.
Yeah.
So it's really in hierarchy. And so when cortisol is up, Yeah, it's a bully in the on the blocks. That's how you are kind of. It's the bully on the block that doesn't let anybody in.
Absolutely. And we are all so adrenally exhausted, which is obviously just that that cortisol, like being dumped into the system. But also if we've had trauma in our childhoods, we're constantly, there's so much cortisol in the system.
So what we saw as well with trauma, by the way, that is the trigger sensitivity that you have. That's trauma. And that's the amygdala firing up. The amygdala is your fear center. Now, with this breathing, what we have seen is that this sensitivity increases a lot with the breathing. The trigger goes down 5 to 10 fold after the breathing. And that's great. That's amazing because trauma makes it actually more trigger sensitive. So you respond quicker. You're prone to react. But with this breathing, we saw that the activity of the amygdala and this trigger sensitivity goes up. So it's incredible what an effect it can have, especially for women, because we have more trauma. Women experience more trauma. The impact is also bigger on our brain because we are more stress sensitive, because we're more in tune with the environment. We also have this amygdala of ours more connected with the prefrontal cortex, which actually in good times makes us better leaders. But it also makes us prone to over ruminate. Yeah. So there is more stimuli coming in. And we really can help that with the breathing also to tone that down. And that is with the cortisol. That is one thing. What I wanted to mention, just because of this hierarchy, but for women, it's also this cortisol causing inflammation, and inflammation long run causes a lot of problem. And then we also have the insulin resistance. And so I think for women, these trifecta, it's chronic stress, inflammation, and insulin sensitivity. And these three together or separate create a lot of these hormonal problems that a woman encounter. And all these three we can actually tackle with the Wim Hof method. This is what we're tackling here. And that's why you see, personally, that's why we see so many beautiful benefits, that the hormones for all of a sudden are being more in balance, that the cycle is getting more in tune with the moon, that the fertility is going up, that the depression and the rumination and the anxiety is going down. This all has to do with this inflamed body and mind, because it's also in the body, and this offsetting of this hormonal system going through most probably these three parts. And woman, we need deep rest. We need to cleanse our system, and we need stress to go down, so we're not really, the insulin sensitivity goes up when we're stressed. And so it's really the main thing that you can tackle here. It's the cortisol.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's important that we know what's around us, because we are being bombarded all the time by everything, and we don't know half of the things that we're being bombarded by. That's been amazing today. So happy to have learned so much more about Wim Hof and the Wim Hof method, and also how this can help women around the world to, have better lives and feel healthier and aligned with themselves. And so it's been a wonder and a pleasure to have both of you, two Wim Hof sisters, the Hof sisters. But I want to just ask you about the words love, purpose, connection, because that's why you're here. You're on the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast, and what they mean to you.
Yeah, I find these are three very powerful words. And when I saw as well, like this podcast, I thought like, wow, this resonates so much as well with me. And for me, the connection part, for example, has first connected with yourself, that you can connect so much with others. And eventually, like what you were mentioning, the interconnectiveness, eventually what I see another, and it's actually, we are part of one. Because if it's what I see or experience, it is part of me at that moment. So that is the connectiveness that is within yourself. But when you are connected better with yourself, you're connected better with others too. And it makes the love bigger as well. the warmness, the beauty, what is love? Yeah, there are so many definitions for it, but eventually, for me, it is more the warmness, the sweetness, the peacefulness that is there, and you can experience that with so many. But first, it always starts with yourself, and the purpose is actually why love can exist as well. So the purpose is as well like it's a focus, it's a goal. And once you have that focus and goal, the purpose of life, the meaning of life, something bigger than that you are, um, then all the others can flow even more.
Yeah.
If you're connected to your purpose, you're doing it in love.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been so wonderful.
Thank you, Estelle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Love, Purpose, Connection with me, Estelle Bingham. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd really appreciate that. And if you really liked it, then leave me a review so I can keep doing what I love, healing one heart at a time. You can also follow me, Estelle.Bingham, on Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest releases. If you feel in need of some extra guidance, then my book, Manifest Your True Essence, could be helpful. You can find it online or in any major bookshop. In the meantime, thanks again for listening, thanks again for watching, and I will join you on the next episode of the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast.